Right, Imperial Elegy, turn 5. Where are we? What happened? So far, the course of the game has been putting certain powers into what I think is stronger positions than others. France is the most obvious example, with them taking the Low Countries, Hanover, and overall being in a pretty good position. Not really showing any weakness anywhere else. So they're the key bugaboo out there. Turkey looked like it was doing well, but then it's gotten kind of beaten up by the Russians, and I don't really think that the Russians are doing all that tremendously either. I think they're fine, but they're not running away with it like I was afraid like I certainly am afraid France is, and Turkey was showing signs of being in a powerful position. Austria's not in a bad position. We shall see what boils out of it. This last turn was almost a nothing happens turn. Nobody committed any wars, I think. We got the Japanese showing up. There was a lot of tinkering around with diplomacy counters. There was even some tinkering around over here on the MPIT, which is determining long-term, the big power diplomacy. And we ended up with kind of a shocking result of Austria committed to the Triple Entente, and these don't mean anything, they're just the opposition, and Russia and Germany in the Triple Alliance, even though, but Austria being in that committed space, that makes it harder for them to get out, because they basically have to shift down one, and it actually makes it painful if somebody else joins it, because they've been pushed into really supporting anybody who's in there, whatever their goals are. Normally, you can kind of back out of something, and all you really do is fuck with your alliance position. But when you get out of the committed, you start losing stability. This all came out of an attempt by Turkey to engineer Turkey and Austria to be allied. They failed to get their own side into any kind of alliance. And it's very hard. You need specific cards in order to trigger one of these moves outside of the end of turn thing. And there's not a lot of those cards. It's a big deck, and it keeps growing. We got another pile of cards. There's almost nothing left to grow in it. The amount of cards that get pulled out is relatively low, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, which means it keeps getting more and more watered down if there's something specific you need or whatever. It's quite possible that key things will just not come up in this game. We haven't seen the conference on Africa. We haven't seen, while we've seen cards which could trigger things in China, they never ended up in the right person's hand. And that's another thing. If the card's not mandatory, well, it's got to be good. The China card actually ended up in the right person's hand, in France's hand. And France ended up losing it to a random card draw that Britain instigated. And it would have helped Britain more than anyone, and then France. So we got that going on. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's just not really underway. There was a struggle over alliances in Italy. Austria kind of won its in Piedmont, but England slipped in there and got Naples and made it a more powerful state. Now, if Italy ends up, I've got to go deal with my tea. If Italy ends up forming as a nation, these become valueless. So there's that. Okay, I gotta stop. Shopping debate continues as I counted up the cards. This is kind of interesting because I don't know. You know me by now, but it's like I've wasted. Saturday is always a waste. Sunday, I could have conceivably done stuff. Monday, Tuesday, it's Wednesday now. I've wasted the whole week, basically. Even if I go today, and it's a matter of, it makes me put everything else off because I've got something that I'm refusing to do. I'm unable to like go do any of the other tasks in place of it. Of course, I can come up here and play this. I don't know why I can avoid that. One big positive is that the video game beta ended. So that was one of the factors that was eating up time. I would, it's a good excuse to numb myself. But I still watch videos in the same time frame and whatever. Anyway, everybody's got 4s on their cards at this point, except Russia, who got to a 5. The Transcontinental Railroad pushed them over. And England has pushed all the way up to a 6. They have that extra card or extra half card marker here. That's 1.5 extra, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. France had a +1 card marker that they had to discard. So theirs is actually kind of weak. They have been neglecting their industry. Actually, that can't be right. That just can't be right. Now, I threw a +1 card or a -1 card, one of the two away. Oh, yeah. No, a -1 gets rid of this. Okay. Yeah, they had a -1 card. So they're actually not doing that badly. Okay. And we deal them out. And look at the German hand. They have a mandatory Concert of Europe. Decrease the WTT by 1. Removed from the game if played during or after turn 5. So this is going to be a final play of that card. They also have this interesting Cossacks, which, if it doesn't show up in Russian hands, it's useless. Although you could make an agreement to help Russia. But everybody's got good stability right now. Only Austria fell behind because they got tapped without a card in that last little calamity. But yeah, I'm not going to be discarding cards. I don't really have anything to talk about with that. It's just I wanted to peek at that because that seemed interesting. That that card only comes up once. Now the tensions have stayed low anyway. I know why I wanted to, because the idea of the Concert of Europe, the Congresses of Europe, whatever, was post-Napoleonic. The powers largely worked together to resolve problems. And that kind of tries to represent that, even though it doesn't directly address a single problem. The way in PAX, when you call a Congress of Europe, kind of like, the League of Nations or something, it's able to make dictate a settlement on players by voting. And there's nothing along those lines here. There's no easy way to settle things that are disputes. Now, there aren't the level and quantity of disputes in this that there are in Pax Britannica. Pax Britannica disputes, I'm not going to say they don't, so they tend to happen quite often because Britain says, oh, no, you don't, and throws something that gives them a casus belli so that they either gain whatever anybody else is gaining or just have a reason to bully someone into withdrawing, from a claim, which is how Britain can't lose, is basically the issue, because their army is so big and their army and navy are so big that they can do that during the early stages of the game that are important and whatever. But there's nothing along the lines of what seems like it's supposed to be an amicable voting sort of answer to the situation. Instead, what you have here, and the Congress of Europe could be a tool against the Brits in PAX. Instead, here you have people engineering wars, but for the most part, if somebody wants to go into an area, they just go into it on their turn, and nobody else gets to create a stink about it. I think this handles, I think it's more realistic here. But just because of the gamey nature impacts of how it ends up actually playing out, as opposed to the theoretical side of it. Yeah. And Austria concluded that same deal. France actually had a deal they could make with Russia with the foreign investments card, and they made it this time. Russia giving them a card at random. The Austrians, I noticed something that I've been missing. The last line of Habsburg Dynasty, after playing this card, if you're allied with at least 2 German minor powers, gain a +1 card marker. I don't think I was in a position where that happened, but it was definitely a possibility for me to try to engineer that back when I had the alliance with like the Danes or whatever. I don't know, but it fell off my mind. I'm still working, I'm focusing on this getting citizenship, which is why I'm working with the Brits and why I'm pulling the, whatever this is, the New Hope, Kaiserreich. So broadly, that's the diplomacy phase. I'm going to set things at the action phase. I don't feel like starting to play cards right away, ever, for whatever reason. I have left out important parts of the diplomacy, but there's vaguely a feeling of still, hey, if we can hit France, we want to, but it's really, really tough. This was not set up in a way to help with that. The Germans are intending to smack the Austrians this turn, finally. Hey, Bismarck's still alive. Yeah, and even if the Austrians join in, even if the Austrians get an ally or something, that can be prevented by the Bismarck card. So that's kind of a powerful situation. I need to get Bavaria. Is there anything else I want from them? Not particularly, but, you know, if I take Vienna, that's great. Then I get to take, I could put harsh penalties on them and push them further away from me, but, you know, we're already, there's not like a real permanent hatred situation. If you impose a harsh penalty or whatever, people can still drift out of these, I think, pretty easily with some effort. It just takes more turns. I guess that's okay. There are no truces on the board anymore, which means everything's open. What do I expect? Like I said, Germany is going to try to attack Austria. Russia has another anti-Turkish plan. The Turks took their jihad. They'll try to undertake it if they can. You know what the problem is? I don't see the flag. I just see that blue underneath. That's what hits me. I don't know why. I don't know why. Yeah. I mean, it's like this is blue too, so what is my issue? But I'm just not processing the information right. About an hour ago, I got dressed. I got my little milk crates outside. I got my cart up here ready to go. I'm talking to you now, so I didn't make it. I was tired. I was not really, I still am tired, not really in the mood to go, am I ever? And looking for an excuse, I guess, but I looked at the weather forecast and it didn't say anything about, you know, rain in the AM anymore. Instead, it was just saying like light rain for the day. Well, clearly the light rain in the AM was the correct thing, but it had passed noon and it was still kind of drizzly. And now it's pretty sure that it's not going to. I mean, there's always some chance. But yeah, and It's not often that I make my mind up, get dressed, do everything to be ready to go outside. I mean, I was just about ready to head out. And I don't know, I checked the weather just to make sure. And tomorrow looks prettier. Tomorrow sucks for this. I don't need to. I have some of everything, even the stuff that I run out of. It's just, I don't know. It would have been wise to go. Anyhow, I'm up here because I wanted to talk about that, but I'm going to buzz through a card for everybody just because part of the reason I came up was also, let's get some motion going on this. So, for example, looking at the German cards, trying to make the decision, do I want to launch my attack on Austria early or late in the turn? Some of it may depend on how many cards we each have. But I got me an ally. One issue is, okay, it'd be cool if I could bring Russia in against it. That would make it really certain, right? Yeah, except if first of all, I have to declare my war aims before Russia makes their decision. It's going to be a war of unification. Conceivably, if Russia joined, they could get, like, if we managed to capture the Austrian capital, we could impose a harsh terms on them and take an additional treaty requirement. Now, what Russia wants is more territory, and I can only declare territorial objectives for liberation on Bavaria. So unless I do a war of conquest, I can't give them anything, and then I can't use my Bismarck and all kind of stuff like that. But basically what it comes down to is, even if I could offer Russia the opportunity for, a pick of something that they wanted, I couldn't give them what they really want, which is territory. And one of the things in the game is that, there's very little reason for your allies to come in, especially since they probably didn't really agree to the alliance. I guess if they're committed or whatever, sure, but they still don't have to fight very hard or anything like that. In other games where players are making their own alliances, they actually are kind of committed to the wars. But then you can make an argument about, look, was anybody really all that committed to the Crimean War? I don't know. Anyway, I'll keep trying to figure out what the Germans want to do. I don't have something immediately in mind. Playing the multicultural empire, that was their agreement. Now, what's kind of interesting here, this is going to be, we're letting Austria pick what they want. This is going to be an attempt to move to full citizenship. But unlike other attempts, when you decrease it, forgot something last turn. Towards the end of last turn, something happened. And again, so much information on these cards, and it's hard to remember, like, what the hell is this? Well, this is about unification. Okay, fine. Whenever you decrease instability, I did. Add a +1 for each minority with rights. That's +4. A roll of 6 or higher, you pass. Okay, so there was a very limited chance, and we're okay. But, yeah. So let's go back to this. Here we were looking at, is it New Way Forward? No. It's not that. Is it Incorporate? No. Okay, that's close. Expand citizenship. Okay, the grant rights and expand citizenship. This requires a roll of 3 or higher with difficulty increased by nationalities and the ability to drop stability for a bonus Their own home card is similar to that, except it has a stability baked in that you can throw in for something else. But this one is just a 4 or higher. If I succeed, I'll figure out who it is. Yep, we do. So that's kind of good. Now, my choices are Czechs and Croats. Croats are not this. These are Serbs. These are Hungarians here. We'll give it to the Czechs, I guess. I don't know. That's Hungary. Bohemia's there with Czechs. There's nothing near them. I don't think there are any Czechs anywhere else either. Doesn't really make a difference. But we were more likely... Oops. I think it's more likely that Austria would have given it to the Czechs. So I'm going to choose that one. And Britain has fulfilled their requirement. So I had a requirement. They played this foreign investment. But now again, I realize the auto-industrial is there. I can't keep all the fucking information I need to in hand. Russia probably would not have paid a card for this when they had the auto-industrial available. But I just didn't remember to check that piece, you know, because... Austria picked the Kaiserreich, which would allow me to grant citizenship on a 3 or higher. A little easier. But I'm at -3, so that puts it at a 6 or higher unless I give up the stability increase. So we'll go for the 50-50 shot. Hey, we've made our goal. We have made our goal. We give the Croats citizenship. Probably should have actually gone with Poles instead of Croats originally, because they're over here. I don't know why we did what we did. I'm looking at the Russians. They have conquest of Central Asia. Now, I own Central Asia, so I meet the requirements. Central Asia becomes a Russian home space. I don't know how to mark that. Russia places a reserve army in Central Asia. I don't have a reserve army here. I don't know if this means I just get a free one or what. It's got a permanent. For the rest of the game, Russia can have one reserve army on the Asia submap during peacetime. That does not count against their peacetime manpower army limit. I don't know if it counts against their reserve armies limit either. It is immediate, and you can see there's too much text on here to add more clarifications or anything anyway. It is immediately eliminated if during peacetime it is not in the Asian submap. The army can be rebuilt using normal recruitment. Sounds like I don't have to build it. But I don't know. During demobilization step of a war Russia is participating in, Russia may leave one reserve army on the map. Place this card near the Russian player as a reminder. It does get removed, but this starts becoming more and more noise. It's kind of like all these cards that have long-term effects have to be kicked around. The way of expressing this one is, and I mean, Bavaria, I think, is an Austrian home area. I don't remember how they got it anymore. Do they just have control, or is it Austrian home? I think it's Austrian home. But this at least has some information of how I should be indicating that it's still there. But the game just does not support, you know, you start putting too much noise out everywhere. The game has a lot of busyness and noise already. And I don't know. In response to that, I'm pulling these guys out. These are ones that I do have to remember. Machine guns, I've been good at remembering them, I think. But yeah, they might as well be sitting out. The important secondary power does have some information on it that explains that counter over there that I won't remember otherwise, perhaps. And then the South German Confederation, yes, indeed, it does make Bavaria Austrian home territory. Germany still needs it to unify. I don't know what I'm doing with the Russians. I just saw this card. It's one that I'm interested in playing, obviously, but I don't know if that's what I want to play right off. So indeed, Russia played the conquest of Central Asia, and it's a weird situation because now I've got an army on the board that I think doesn't count for anything. Like, it doesn't count against any limits. It's just running off this card, and it's weird. It's weird. And again, a hard thing to remember what the hell is going on with it. And then the Turks had a big 3-point card, which they can't play anyway for anything else, which I used to turn Bulgaria into an ally. Which, it doesn't help me with my goals, but it helps me defend against Russia. I've done enough. I'm tired as hell. Kind of bad. I fell asleep, I guess, by about 2 p.m. Slept until 9. And that's a long sleep. I wasn't counting on that. I thought I've been fighting a certain fight, trying to get some control, and this just doesn't work for anything. Like, I guess I could go shopping tomorrow morning. It's hard for me to do it in the morning when I've been up all night. I don't know. I'm at the tired end of stuff, and I just don't feel up to it. And also, then this is a sleep schedule that I can't keep if I'm going dancing. Well, on Friday. It's not quite Thursday yet. Anyway, I'm up here to do another card. I made coffee, probably a bad idea, but I want the taste. Germany's got a kind of shitty hand. They would have discarded a card if they needed stability. I don't particularly want to give Russia a stability. I don't know what this... Yeah, you can only do it just as it's being decreased. I find these really annoying. The responses that... I don't know. It makes sense, but it's like... it's just too hard to track. And like I've often said, response cards are hard for me to cope with. As are the military cards in this, because my mindset's on something different when it's happening, and they probably don't matter much. Germany wants to go to war with Austria. Now, I can just do that, but right now Austria has their full army, and I've heard all this machination going about trying to get some sort of alliance against France. And if the Austrian army's beat up, I'll have a much easier time with the unification. So I kind of want to delay things. But the problem is, I don't really have anything I want to do right now. And maybe rebuilding my army would be something I want to do. It's difficult to come up with any kind of, gosh, what do I use here? Decreasing the WTT, yeah, sure, I can do that. That makes life easier on other people, and I'd kind of rather hold that off. I guess I'll play the Cossacks card for something, but there's kind of this, I'm going to end up with no cards left at the end again, but that's okay. The biggest things is, one of the places I would want to use my points is on the diplomacy, the major power influence track. And that's just not kind of... Like, I'd want to do that after the war, when I see how things shake out. I want to do that late in the turn. The Brits decide to focus over here, getting a naval base over here. That's another point of projection that I can't actually accomplish, or that I don't actually have. I don't know if I have enough points boat-wise, though, to accomplish that if I get it. But I want to get my claim in, basically. I got 3, 4, Yeah, I think I just have the 4 boats, so I need to build more ships. But that's okay. I'm establishing a claim, as it were, by getting a guy in there, and that's more important than, say, finishing off this. And I used the colonial conflict and ended up causing a little bit of a problem for France. Turkey feels like they kind of fucked up. Now, diplomacy, I probably could have, and I went last in my combined sequence, so there's no reason I wasn't thinking along these lines, so we're just going to call it a fuck up. But I took the jihad card. I don't know if I actually want the jihad card. I don't want to go to war with France right now, the way things are, and I don't particularly want to go to war with Russia. I might have an advantage right now, but yeah, and I'm just in this, gosh, my hand doesn't work. The modernization would have made more sense. But it's very easy to be stupid in this game. It's very easy to fixate on the wrong thing, and actually, you know, what I did here and in a couple of other cases is I'm trying to do something I can't do. Let me catch you guys up. The English piddled around with the things I was talking about. The French did a city of light and moved over here. They're ignoring Tunisia. I don't know why. It's not a war of independence, so who cares, you know? It really doesn't make much difference. It could become Turkey's problem, I guess, if they were to attack it. And I just don't think Turkey can win a war against France. Although, if France is down to 1 card, maybe I can. Maybe I can. So that's something to keep in mind there. Austria industrialized. Russia played a chaining card. They want to remove this alliance, but that doesn't really solve their problem. They're going to be in a struggle with Turkey and actually have their own iffy thing, a Russia-Turkey war. That I don't know if that is going to happen, because we're going to come to this balance where I have to win this to get anywhere. Maybe. I mean, I do have a fleet. I could just go for a conquest of Istanbul, I think. What does the Russia-Turkey war do with that? Gain an alliance with a minor power in the Balkans. There isn't any. I don't have any diplomacy with anything else. Then declare war against the Ottomans. If a conquest aim is chosen, do not take the things. Yeah. Alternatively, I could try to push into... actually, I can't take Istanbul as a war aim, I think, which is problematic. But I could do like a war of conquest here, conquer Istanbul, and then I think I could take it as an aim. The Istanbul situation is weird because, I mean, it's their capital and I'm able to take it. I gotta look at that. But right now I'm on the fucking Ottoman turn, so let's put that on the stack of, you know, there's just this constant like, oh, what happens if that happens? Yeah, but if I look it up now, it's not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna use it right away. It was to move my units and set up for an attack on Tunisia. Now this is kind of a telegraphing type move, you know, but can the French really afford to go defend Tunisia in comparison? I don't know, you know. Down this side, and I got the sniffles for some reason. I don't know. Yeah. I hope I'm not sick. I don't feel ill in any way. The Germans did another telegraphing move. They have room for another army. They built it. Now, you can militarize at the end of the turn but I kind of need the armies now. I'm going to be able to bring one of my reserve armies in as well for free. It takes like normally what they have their special ability with the staff. But deploy reserves allows you, I think, only to deploy half your reserves. Not going to look it up. That's what I remember. And it may be like up to 3 or something if it's half, but like it's whichever is less. If I'm wrong about that, I'm fucking up, right? But I'm just not willing to look. Anyway, the Brits and the French both went with automatic industrializations, just with big cards. I'm like, screw it. Let's get this. For the Brits, it's their last need to industrialize. For the French, they've got another one, but the automatic seems like a good idea. It doesn't actually give them a card, and it's kind of wasting a big card, but I'm just like sick of, okay, what do I do, Economic panic was the chaining card for the Russians. They used all their points to drop this. They had to discard a card. They can't even get rid of the diplomacy. They're not going to have enough to get an alliance there. They would have to get rid of and gain the diplomacy. I can set myself up for it for next turn. And that's fine. I discarded a card because I'm not going to use the Russo-Turkish War. A number of people chose to take the stability hit because they can recover it. Germany took it. They're planning on going to war with Austria. England took it. They've got the balance of power card, which they can get a new card for, and a stability. Great. France discarded a card. They're down to 1. Austria had already started passing. They discarded their last card to keep their stability from going down any further. And the Turks took a stability hit because they're going to go to war with France. They've just decided, screw it. That's why I moved my troops here, whatever. I made my decision already. And if I lose the war, that sucks. If I win it, I get a stability. That's going to put me back over to the Charmans. I'm going to pause here because I'm out of coffee. I'm out of pipe. I got coffee downstairs. I got pipe downstairs. But yeah, I'm just going to take a little bit of a break. But I think I'll be back pretty soon. And we're going to see some stuff break out. We got 2 wars on the stove right now. Going to the alliance system. At some point in the game, and I think there's a card for secret treaties, but I don't know what it is and what it does. And even if I looked in there, I wouldn't find out what it does. I just find out its existence. But one of the big factors was that there were not necessarily completely secret treaties, but secret protocols to the treaties. And some of that is kind of during the diplomacy phase and whatnot, and during negotiations, you can agree of what you're doing, but you're not really seeing the extent of what the diplomacy really was when it's sitting here. I guess it's okay. Just what I'm thinking here is, were there any big shocks? The Entente between France and Russia was no shock at all, right? The alliance between Germany, Austria, and Italy was known, and Italy backs out. That can be explained in the game turns. Then somehow Turkey slides in real fast. Whatever. I mean, historically, Turkey was actually pretty much aligned with Germany at that point and reliant upon them. So it would be pretty hard. Did they have a formal military alliance? I don't think so. But, whereas Italy did. Britain was kind of the iffy thing in the air, where Belgium certainly put the nail in that. But Britain had been pushed further and further away from accepting what Germany was doing. Would they have accepted a war with France without Belgium and Luxembourg's violation of neutrality, especially Belgium's, which is the one they cared about? I don't know. I think there's a good chance that they would have intervened, but maybe not right away. So there was no formal alliance there, but there was a formal statement with regard to Belgium. You basically had an alliance in Belgium. You know, Germany declaring war. See, here's the thing. Germany was declaring war on France. And I guess your best argument is Britain played the balance of power card. But no, Germany was going to go through Belgium no matter what. And the only reason, I don't know, that doesn't really work. And what I'm just thinking here, I'm just, spitballing in my head how much that kind of works in the game, how much the game represents things. Because I don't mind the open alliances being required to some extent. I feel like, yes, there were secret protocols to those treaties, but those can be handled by the in-person decision, in real time of whether or not you're going to actually, join a war, because you can join an offensive war. Some of these alliances were officially defensive in nature, but ended up offensive as well, and everything could be questioned because, Russia can claim that they're defending, with their defense of Serbia, by attacking Austria, by Germany declaring war on them. The fact that Germany declared war on Russia means that France can say, oh no, we're supporting the defense of Russia here. So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I don't even know what my point is. We're pausing here. It's Bismarck time, and I get a war budget of 3. And here's the interesting thing. The Austrians can't do a damn thing about it. They don't have a card. Were they shocked? I don't know. But we're going to forbid anybody from joining. We're going to just go grab Bavaria. I honestly don't think there's any need to do a damn thing. Because there is nothing the Austrians can do. And no one else can join. I could actually probably march to Vienna and take an additional, harsher value. Now, Vienna has troops. So I'm going to look to see what kind of treaty advantage I can take if I grab Bavaria. Is there anything else that will help me? Now, I can do a major victory no matter what. I don't have to take the 2 awards. But you know what's interesting? The 2 awards are not on, the penalty for taking 2 awards isn't on here, nor is a reference to it. I'm going to have to go find that and pencil that in, the reference for it. It just pisses me off that things are only said once and then not even referenced, that this is where I would look. It's only in one place, so I found a place where it is. I'm not positive, but I think. And it's imposing harsh terms after a war under the alliance system. I don't know if that was where it was, or if it was going to be, I had looked under the MPITT. It might also be in the world tensions, which I should probably look at as well. When the victor imposes both the attacker and defender shift away from each other, both powers are neutral, randomly determined. Okay, it doesn't say that there. Now I have to go find the MTT or WTT. And again, that's probably in this kind of intro section that it would be. But here's tracks. The stability track, that's on the player display. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a track that's not on there. Wait, we got War and Peace here. That's not talking about it. I also haven't yet. Both sides are probably going to be in the committed alliance side in a very short moment anyway. So I'm not really worried about the impact I just saw. Well, let's see. Harsh terms. That they shift away from each other anyway. I think this is going to shift away by declaring war, and they're already shifted as far away as possible. But maybe it's something else that's similar to that. But now, I don't know. There's spaces on the map. I think we're going to have to go to the index. Actually, world tension only sends me to page 44 because, again, it only gives one reference. And I think there's somewhere that I'm looking for that lists what changes world tension. But here on 44, first of all, it's talking about national special abilities. I don't think that's Italy and Poland. Okay. And then the next thing is the crisis table, which doesn't talk about where the points come from. So now I got to look again blindly. There's nothing for the WTT track or whatever it is. There's just the world tensions, and it sends me to this, which, you know, yes, it's related to world tensions, but it is not the base rule for it. This would be the crisis table is the rule, which is triggered when WTT hits 5. The easiest place to look is on here. I find it turn track and world tensions track. I don't think it's going to say anything here because, okay, I'm not finding it. I don't see anything that's broadly declared. Oh, here it is. Okay. So I don't think that there's any special effect on the world tensions, and this actually doesn't create a world tension, right? Because it's a, sorry, I'm shaky, too much coffee maybe. I also may be coming down with Parkinson's or something. Who knows? Yeah. And now I have to start looking up the effects of, you know, what the declaration of war does and whatever, and whether I want to do the harsh tensions, because if all I'm doing, if I'm already in committed in both, there's actually no penalty, and at least I can take like reparations or something. I actually probably could have beaten up France instead. I could actually go for both, but I don't want to do that. The way I hit a problem again, declare war doesn't state anything about, like right up here, about shifting people's alliance position. Now, there's the alliance step back here, but that's not about that. But then under that, there's primary belligerence, which also doesn't say that, but there's alliance shift step, which happens in the alliance step. And that tells me the defender shifts away, the attacker actually doesn't. So if I take harsh terms, now I got to remember the harsh terms. Was that here? No, that's not here. That's what I marked because that was the victory conditions. Now I don't remember what it's under. You know, the stack starts being a real issue. What was harsh terms under? It's here. Okay. Both belligerents shift. So do I want to go into the committed triple alliance spot? That could force me into wanting to do a war that Russia's involved in. I have to play a card if it does, but I think if I don't remember if I'm out of cards, if that obviates, you know, my situation. I look over here and Russia still has their home card, which means they could declare a war and force me into it. I know that if I'm at a treaty, so a war with Austria isn't going to hurt me, but I don't know if I'm unable to declare war because I'm out of cards impacts me. So in order to join an alliance, you have to play a card. The defender doesn't have to, but anyone who wants to join the war has to. And so now I have to go look that up. And this is the thing. It's like, it's just too much of a massive tangled, like, it's not really special cases, but it's stuff that just doesn't stick together into a solid gel the way and this is simply the case that I found with a lot of these CDGs, that the multiplayer ones, is that there's all kind of weird special case stuff. And this is why, Here I Stand wasn't too bad. Sword of Rome, obviously very light. Doesn't have a lot of this kind of messiness, but as we start going into these others, there's just all kinds of things. And this is, again, a huge part of it. Here I Stand has like one special thing for each country. Here it's a fucking like page worth of information, basically, if you include the stuff that's in the back and whatnot. And it's not like you don't need to know everybody's, even if you're playing opposed. Like, you can't make good decisions without knowing these things. Now, in Here I Stand, I had enough trouble with, like, I'm playing one country and I can't pay attention to even what all the countries, all the different countries' special abilities are. But So I remember being shocked by the Turks doing something. I'm like, wait, what? What are you doing? But here, it's just a fistful of them instead of just one each. So it's really, really painful. And it's one of the reasons why I'm thinking, I was thinking I should play this a second time. But again, like the other ones that have too much crap in them. And I've talked about why it's necessary for them to have too much crap, because otherwise they just seem like clones of the lighter stuff. The ones that have too much crap in them, they're just pushing me beyond the limits. And it's not just the CDGs. Again, the EU Pop did the same thing to me. There's just too much going on in too many different ways where I can face something like a World at War, where there's all this kind of stuff, but everybody's kind of contained on their own. Same thing with the Europa Universalis. Everybody's kind of contained on their own. I don't really have to worry about them pulling something out of their ass that I'm just distracted by. Now here, it's getting so complex that I can't even keep track of the person whose card I'm playing, because it's got that rapid play type thing. I'm not sitting back like in an EU and plotting out, my entire, and like a World at War. Both very complex games, but I can look at one country at a time and devote myself to it and look up all the stuff the way I'm having to look up in this war. But every fucking card play, I have to be aware of like 6 things per country that are special capabilities, and I can't really focus on what one country's trying to do and what they're not. In addition to calculating out the board state and trying to figure all that out. And I just think that these guys are too complex for me to get a grip on. Now, if you like something like Virgin Queen, let's say you liked it on a playing or two, you didn't get really, really into it, where you're like playing it constantly. If you're able to absorb everything that's going on in that sort of way, and I know people who are like that, hey, maybe these guys are really great for you. But for me, it's pushing me beyond my limits, especially on solo play. But again, you really kind of have to be aware of everybody's capabilities. It's bad enough. And it's bad enough having one special power and like 1 or 2 home cards that I have to know for everybody. But in addition to that, I have so much more in this one. And then also the board state is more complex. And, There's special cases aligned to to certain countries in there. Things like, Egypt owning these two, Tripoli owning this. All that stuff is just like it's just more and more clutter, and it makes that stack of lookups this teetering tower that like can't support a good play. I feel like Virgin Queen was beyond, and Tanto Monta were both beyond the limits of what I'm happy with, but at least they were relatively solid rules. Tanto Monta goes beyond Virgin Queen, honestly. At least they were relatively solid and well-developed rules upon release. I'm going to say GMT's been kind of faltering in some places. I felt like they actually got it okay in Tanto Monta, which impresses me, because it feels like the company's getting on shakier and shakier ground compared to where it was. That becomes another burden when these games aren't absolutely ironclad. I'm left with some cards that I'll tell you, the thing with the elite expeditionary forces. I still don't know. I have not seen a card that says I take an elite expeditionary force. Do I memorize all the cards? That spoils something that I like in these games, which is the surprise factor. An event-given game should have a surprise factor. Now, EU is no better at this because it's just full of shit where you have to interpret and modify shit, especially within the event tables and everything. But I was younger then, and also had less games, which meant that I was willing to devote to it. But I don't think that's the only thing. It feels to me like the pulsing is putting an additional, the CDG pulsing puts an additional burden, and it makes the complexity much, much worse, because it makes that huge stack of rules, questions, and ambiguities and all that much, much more troublesome. And also shit that you just can't remember, because you're constantly being faced with maybe the consequences of those questions with every card you play, and you just can't keep it all in your head on such an interactive situation. And it's really one of the things where I'm continuously discovering to myself, look, I liked the more complex CDGs when I came in to the CDG world. I've grown to realize, like, they've extended beyond what I can handle in that. I still don't really like the ultra simple ones, but I'm growing more okay with them in comparison to what happens when you start burdening this kind of interactive pulsed system with way too much that you have to incorporate into every decision. It's not like, I'm thinking there are prior pulsed systems, things like the victory games, Civil War, Korean War, that used significant, interactivity in the actions, and they're kind of painful to approach, but when it comes down to it, there's like one system you have to understand, the movement in combat and all that. But here, there's just so much clutter that you can't even play it legally without resolving these things. But you have to pre-resolve them all in your head and have them all tied together in order to make these decisions properly. And it's just, Jesus, it's just too much for me, I think. And I don't think that a second playing is going to help me. In the way that I did find that Virgin Queen, going back and playing it again a couple of times, did help. Here it just feels like It's going to take regular plays again and again, and slowly, beginning to just get so used to it and embroiled in the game that, like with a role-playing game, where you can incorporate what's really or my SFB experience or ASL or whatever, where you can tie all that shit together and really get used to it and become expert in it. And that's basically what you have to do. You have to achieve a level of expertise in the game to even play it minimally, effectively, right? Take the, okay, we can blunder through this approach, and then take the lessons that I learn and replay it if I want to. And that works with most games I've experienced, but this crop, with an O, this crop of games, these later CDGs, multiplayer CDGs with a lot of moving parts going on in them. Yeah, I don't even feel like I can remember the rules and play it legally without huge amounts of looking into the rules, looking up everything that I do again and again and again. And that means that there's never time to think about strategy. And the lack of downtime. So, I'm playing it solo, but let's say I'm playing it opposed. There's not a lot of downtime. I got to be paying attention to what everybody else is doing in case I have like a reaction card that maybe I can play. I've got to be paying attention to what they're doing to make sure I understand what is going on with the board state completely. That means I don't have time to be studying the rules while other people are taking their turns, which I look at the few games that I really, really like, delved into to the degree that I think I would have to in these. And they're probably the biggest is SFB. Well, while the other guy was moving all his ships or was plotting his stuff, I could be flipping through my rule book and looking at stuff. I also had the downtime of filling out my own sheets and whatever. So granted, it was very pulsed in the movement, but I would figure out my turn while I was doing the energy allocation. And that's very much like EU. I figure out what my turn is during my filling out the sheets for the economy and all that. Same thing, any game where you've got that kind of sort of pre-planning stage where you do everything and calculate everything and put it on paper, that's so much work already that looking stuff up that pertains specifically to that country doesn't feel that hard, and especially when you're playing opposed. But yeah, I just don't see the time for it in these. I basically have to be studying the rules instead of watching like a hawk what everybody else is doing, which is, they're both necessary, They're both absolutely necessary. Also, it's not like it's one little rule that I need to look up to understand, what my plan for the turn is going to be. I do have to be aware of these are things that don't feel like the pulled that rule out of my ass in SFB, where like, I can look at it and kind of laugh about, okay, yeah, I wasn't thinking about that anybody would use that for that. That's fine, This is where you could fuck somebody up pretty bad. So somebody suggested, look, there's a way of going after the leader. And it's been something I've been kind of worried about. And it takes a different kind of thinking than most games. Most games, you cut deals with people, you'll both agree to attack them, whatever. If there's formal wars, fine, but you gang up on them in the war. Here, you can't control that as easily, but you can control the alliance track if you're willing to commit enough to it. And let's say France wants to compete against whatever you're doing in the alliance track, they can spend their cards to get rid of whatever one power is doing. But a couple powers could probably devote more points to it. But even more impressive is a couple of powers could be devoting to build up their capability to fight. Let's say we're trying to attack France, and Germany and Austria agree to work together for that. They can concentrate on building up their army and preparing themselves for the war. While, and maybe not with all their cards, whatever. While Russia spends cards to modify the MPIT and try to push things so that Germany and Austria are on a different side from France, or France is neutral, or whatever. So that's one thing. It does take a turn before, to completely set up and prepare for a war, but okay. Feels like a decade to prep for war, maybe a little too much, but okay. But that's kind of the necessity to set up the wars that you might want to, the combat situation you might want to have. But then there was something else that I had on this for a way to beat up on the leader, and now I've forgotten what it is. I mean, obviously, people can throw in stuff that hurts their stability and stuff, and we've seen cards like that being used as well here and there. God damn it, I don't remember what it was. And other people can put pressure on their external, and maybe gain everything. One of the problems with that is somebody has to be a real runaway leader for you to take that many actions, for all the players to kind of agree to stop making their nest egg, Now, maybe they can gain some things. Whoever's paying into this is getting shit out of it, though. And that's the problem. You're not getting any points towards winning the game out of that. Except if you're arranging the Great War in a manner in which you think you're going to win. Especially important if you're a minor country. So Turkey, Turkey's relatively weak. They might very much want to try to arrange themselves with to have the two strongest powers aligned with them so that they can win. Just weird shit like that their diplomacy is going to be the diplomacy that determines what the Great War falls into, not the national desires of, the really stronger great powers. Let's say, your France, Germany, Russia, Britain. You feel like their desires should be the driving forces, but they're not. They're not going to be, I think. I think it's going to be the weaker powers who are doing diplomacy and forming alliances, being able to manipulate the alliances to make sure that they're in with a strong grouping. And they might end up creating an ultra strong grouping, something like a France and Germany. You might see like France, Germany, Turkey as one of the triples. How important is England? Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like their military is that powerful. So I'm looking at France, Germany, and Russia as the three big powers. I'm worried about Russia being able to survive, effectively. So then I drop it to France and Germany, and those would be the two I would aim for. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just delaying because I had a thought that triggered me to the other thought that I had already answered somebody in a comment, and now I forgot what the original thought was. And I should just be getting to this war, but man, I don't want to. Because I know I got to start looking shit up in the rules again. Germany is threatening Austria and saying you should surrender. Austria's like, yeah, I guess I could just surrender if you're willing to just take Bavaria. But Germany's like, no, I'm going to take Vienna too and put reparations on you. And the question is your army going to be reduced? Are you going to be so beaten up? You're going to hurt me, you're going to hurt you, and we could beat up on France together. Austria's like, I got like double support coming in. Screw you, man. But Germany's threat is pretty big. They're able to get the reserve into play, whatever. I'm going to give Austria a 1 in 6 chance of just saying, okay, fine, we surrender. We'll give you both the war reparations and Bavaria for nothing. And they do not. So we're going to fight this war out. Germany has 3 points. The first thing they do is they grab this army. I can put it in either, but I'm going to put it here because that gives me CEs in both places. Not that I really need it. Oh, no. Yeah, I want it there. And then I'm going to spend my first point to move all my armies. I move into Bavaria, my war aim. 1, 2. 1, a supporting place. My second point is going to be an attack here. I've got support. He's got support. I'm going to cut support to one of his places with this card. Now, yeah, the Austrians don't have any cards. So it's going to be, I'm not going to throw the ECs in. It's going to be 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 to 2. So I'm at like +6. Now, taking another space isn't really going to help me. Like if I get a decisive victory, so I'm not going to attack anywhere else, but yeah. Got a bad roll, which meant we took a casualty, but we wiped out the Austrian army. Austria should have just surrendered. And now we're going to put, in addition to grabbing Bavaria, we're going to put the war reparations on them. I don't think there are any other goals that are decidable or desirable. Austria should have just surrendered. This was absolutely predictable. Germany tried to convince them, but I can understand, like, I made an evaluation of, oh, maybe I can defend. Oh, wait. There would have been 2 more. That was actually only a +1. I think Austria only lost 1 step. Yeah, Austria only lost 1 step. They still lost the war. And that'll be there at the end of the fight. Okay. Yeah, I forgot they had some support. Yeah, okay. Because there was only 1 space that could be canceled out with the miscommunication. Yeah, pretty clearly Austria should have surrendered. The die roll ended up maybe not as bad as possible. I said it was +6. Yeah, this would have been the die roll, 1 and 4. So it was actually +4. And it could have gone to a victory to the Austrians. So it wasn't an absolute slam dunk that they surrender. I should have made it more likely, but I did not. And we did the reparations. We put the treaties here. Bavaria is going to change hands. Now, I think Bavaria is still a home location for the Austrians. Austria took a influence or stability hit. So I'm rolling a die at +4 for all those full citizenships. They're just rights. That could hurt me more. But I get a good roll. Yeah, it could have hurt me more in terms of another loss of stability. Oh, no, not of stability. Another card loss. Austria is really in bad shape from this. Now, they would have taken that stability hit from just surrendering anyway. And now I'm in stuff like being able to demobilize, all that. Had Germany really wanted to fuck around, they could have blockaded, but I didn't don't have a lot of ships around. But I could have spent a point to drop a ship over here just to hurt them more. What would that be? That would be another -1 card option. Like, I could have fucked Austria over more. I didn't hurt them as much as possible. These are as full as they can go. And I'm just looking to see. Get the redeployment. Okay. One thing to learn, don't leave yourself with no cards. But here was the thing. I had to take a stability hit or lose a card. And the stability hit for Austria is particularly painful, but I mean, it's like, ouch. And what could I have done with the card? Well, if the Germans gathered, then I could gather Austrians to defend either Vienna or Bavaria. Well, I couldn't defend Bavaria. The Germans would get the jump on me there. But if I had a big card, like this one, I still would have gone second. Yeah. Yeah, there really wasn't much I could do. And it's funny because the attacker has the advantage in a fight. Anyway, Germany doesn't have a card. Austria doesn't have a card. France doesn't have anything special. But they're the only one with a card. Out of those, they're the only one with a card left. Britain could attack them, conceivably. I could pass and hold this card for next turn. It's a good card. It's a 3-point card, but also a war reaction, giving you rifles, which is a +1 to land battle for each battle you're involved in. But I think I could take Berlin. I think I could do, right now, I only have 3 of the 4 spaces I want to take. And I'm having trouble fighting against multiple people who are playing the diplomacy system against me. I think I'm going to declare war on Germany. The WTT isn't anywhere. What the hell? Danger. The balance and power card. I'm not worried about Russia joining in. They have their home card. That could be good. Good number of points. But I don't know. The Russian fleet is bigger than the French fleet right now, so it is kind of scary. Combine it with the German fleet, and we got something ugly facing us, so we might end up blockaded. I think there's too many risks. Because the Brits, who definitely have a bigger fleet, could balance and power their way in. And look, they're not gonna beat us in the war necessarily, but we're not gonna be able to push balls to the wall against the Germans. I mean, the impressive thing is I'm so close to Berlin. I actually shifted a German army because I realized, well, wait, the French are ready to take us there. I didn't shift both armies, which maybe I should have. That's a control marker, okay. But I will not be able to force a victory, I think. And if I do go hard against the Germans, the Brits can take Paris with their 3 points or whatever. I won't have enough points to defend myself. Of course, it would do something cool, which is put me allied with the Austrians, which would mean that they can't go to war with me. And would be, well, actually, they would be called in, but they have a treaty, so they're out of that. Yeah, I don't think it's worth a chance. But this is the thing. I can't calculate this out fully, like in my head. I'm okay with that, but I feel like with more confidence in the game system, I would be able to. In particular, what happens if I defeat Germany? They're not the primary belligerent. That's the whole point. If they play the balance of power, they won't be the primary belligerent. And I'm not sure what that means. So I have to look at knocking out wartime allies. I would get a treaty option for knocking the Germans out. I mean, it might be worth it. A single treaty option would let me take that fourth position. But at what cost? Oh, geez. I don't know if I want to play this out. That's another factor of it, because it's gonna pull all kind of shit into play. Oh, they want to think about it harder. Think about it so hard that I'm taking the rare situation of putting a couple of dice on the French. My battery's almost dead. My tea's done. I don't want to rush a decision here. A little bit of thought, mainly just being away, coming back and thinking about the situation from a new angle. I realized something. The British home card is what's keeping me from doing this. The British have to play their home card. I pass. They're going to have to give me an opportunity where I can take Germany out. I mean, not take them out, but I can fight a war of conquest and conceivably take a couple of locations from them. Maybe. I don't know. I don't have... Like, I have to win the war is the problem. But yeah, I could just take, I don't know. Honestly, I could take Westphalia and Saxony and cut Bavaria off, weakening them that way. It could do a lot. Anyway, they both have to burn their home cards. Actually, the Turks had a card they could hold off on doing it with, and it would do just as much. But I want to hold a card, not really realizing France's situation. I should have rolled a die for it, but I didn't. So they both played with this, and it ends up in the same place. Turkey, they both had 3-point cards. Russia built a navy squadron. Turkey ended up pushing themselves into a potential, or trying to push themselves into an alliance with the Austrians, because between the two of them, they might be able to do a lot of damage to the Russians. I have no real interest in hitting the Austrians. They don't seem to be involved in the Balkans at all. Having to burn some war bonus cards because they don't want to play their thing. We're going to end up just swinging through, everybody passing, but they ended up getting control of Oman. Now, this is a problem. This is a matter of the board state being too complicated, no easy way to track it. I can only have double the amount of ships. I should be getting an extra point, but I can't do it because I don't have double the amount of ships there. Now, I may build one and increase that to give myself some more space against the Russians. God knows. But the validness of these markers is going to be questionable, because I could easily build a fleet and not remember that that's what I needed there, because it's like two different pieces. And there's just so much going on. Now the Brits get, they play their card, the balance of power. I don't remember what I played it for the point of influence, getting another card. I got a really cool card, Decline of the Queen, which I will play for effect, giving myself, I don't know, there's no connection between anything here. Part of me says I should take like Shanghai because the English historically took that. But part of me is like, oh, but Indochina is right in between my stuff. I'm going to put this here because it'll be easier for me to see. And this is a returnable card. Now, the French are in a bit of a problem. The Brits have two cards. Maybe they can do something, maybe they can't. They're not my problem, though. This is my only chance to do it. So the French are going to declare war on the Germans. The Germans have no cards. Russia is a potential ally. I can call on Russia. That could end up dropping them out of the Triple Alliance, which they might be useful to me in. I query them, and they're like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to fight France. In fact, I can't. I don't have a card. So they can't even be called in, I guess. I'm not sure about that. But I don't think the Germans want to give up the Russian alliance. That's a useful thing to us. Germany still gets impulses, and they can still use their superior staff work to throw an extra army into play. So the French are going to pick Saxony and Westphalia as their war aim. They've been shifted into there. The Germans can't go any further. Again, the Germans don't want to call the Russians in. The Russians have already said they're not, well, the Russians are unable to come in. Actually, I don't actually know if that's a refusal. No, I'm just not even allowed to ask. Which I could see where it would count as a refusal or affect things. I can see where a truce wouldn't. Oh boy, looks like we're getting daylight starting to come in. Oh crappies. Did it again. I've been fucking around for a long time. This is gone. My best chance is to shift a lot of troops into place. This is going to be ugly. French will have one more war budget left. If I don't win, I can maybe make an attack. If I do win, I could, although I don't think I'm going to, try to blockade the Germans. The problem with it is that I could be intercepted by the German Navy. Possibly. I think I can actually do it. I shift a fleet here, I shift a fleet there. You're able to continue moving. I don't think Gibraltar blocks that. It's not a special space like that is. So I come up and I join him. If he intercepts, he's facing a bigger navy. Yeah, so I might. Germany could just surrender before I have an option to blockade him, which might be their better move. I need to count my points. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to put the Zouaves in because I get them back each turn. 5. I can bring one of these in as support. 6, 7. Facing 2, 4, 5. 6. So all I've got is a +1. Not optimal, but I can make a second attack if I need to, maybe. That's a -1. I have failed. We each lose a step, I believe. Got that double star, but that's not an issue. So we each lose a step, and we each lose our elite unit. That means I have another attack at +1 that I can make. No boats coming in this time. If I don't win, I lose the war. But I do win. I capture Berlin at a +3, which is probably 1-1. No, it's 2-1. I capture Berlin, and I get a major victory. And my conquest can be those 2 territories. It's a single action if you made it your war aims. And then I can take another option with a harsh victory condition. And what am I going to take? Reparations is definitely appealing. Another option is realignment. if I wanted this. Territorial concession's not very intriguing. I actually could have put this down here. Or up here. I don't want to face Ottomans with it. It's kind of asking to be killed. Things are really dangerous now. I am one key away from winning the game in the auto victory by the French. Supposedly something that's not easy to do. I'm also not like that much ahead of my ambitions. Which seems weird, but I have only gained 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. And I need 4 for my full conditions. But this is huge. And I think I take war reparations as my second option. And after repositioning, the French gain stability. They don't actually get it. The Germans lose one, though. Germany is, well, Prussia is beaten back again. They're not going to be able to attack the French next turn. The world has to figure out how to stop France, because all I have to do is gain one more thing in Europe. I mean, that could come from a card, conceivably. It's not all that likely, but yeah. I'm not sure that there's anything all that easy that I could take. These are all colonial, so they're not a problem. They're not going to gain me anything. Taking something like this would be colonial too. It has to be able to connect territorially. So like Bohemia would be a possibility. Vienna is not that far from me. The thing is, the French, actually I don't have to worry about the Germans though that much. I won't be able to reposition easily, like for free, but if I set myself up to fight the Austrians, good stuff could happen. That's what I'm kind of thinking. Wait, I'm allied with Austria. Let's do it this way. A French army here, a French army here. I'm not too worried about Bavaria. It's cut off again. Yes, the Germans could build troops there or something, but they can't get supply or anything down there. Is this where I want this, or yeah, I guess. I don't know. You know, it's like I can't defend the entire coastline. Picardy might be more valuable. It's closer to the Low Countries and whatnot. Oh, you know what? Germany very briefly had this. They had reached 8 keys, but now they're back down. French are definitely not in charge of Germany. Oh, I think the English are going to hold their cards. There's nothing much they can do. The Turks are going to hold their card. There's nothing they can do. That's going to put me on the end phase. Might as well do it. Success on the industrialization. Germany, UK's up at the top. France, both at 5. The German and French. Austrians up to a 4. Russia succeeded as well. They're at a 3. Turkey didn't do any. We did the truces already, moved them down. There's no wars of independence on the board. WTT, oh, it's alliance resolution. That's where I was stuck. And the only guy who has 2 points in it, everybody else is kind of going the way they're going, whatever that means. But the Turks have a role here. So theirs is of interest. So they have Turkish and neutral at +1, and then I don't know. This is going towards the Entente and neutral at +1. The Entente is France's alliance, which is not where they want to be. How did that happen? I don't know. The Austrians. We were trying to get the Austrians on us, and we ended up on that side. It's hard to understand. Okay, so 7, we go in the direction of the Entente. So we're now largely forbidden from attacking France. Austria and the Ottomans are on the French alliance side. The Germans have a truce, so we're looking at Russia, who can't really do anything so far away, and Britain. Of course, on the other hand, the French were thinking, wow, we would like to go to war with someone, get another. Keys from Turkey wouldn't matter. But maybe there's a minor we could take that we could count as a territorial key. I don't think so, because we're not going to be connected to anything. I mean, if we could free Piedmont up, that would be the only thing, unless something can happen. So it's going to be very hard for us to get the auto victory on this upcoming turn. Next turn is the last turn of the game. This upcoming turn is not. The turn after that is the last turn of the game, and all the truces will be done. So mighty Germany, mighty Prussia could come against us again. Yeah, I mean, we hurt them. We hurt them bad. These are all autos. So Germany moves 1 towards the TA. That's where they stay. Britain stays in neutral. France had a point in neutral. They actually fall out. That means Austria could go to war with them, and Turkey could go to war. How about that? Austria goes towards the Triple Entente. That's where they are. Russia goes towards the Triple Alliance automatically. And Turkey goes towards the Triple Entente going into committed. We might have some stuff happening here. Oh, no. I already rolled them. You just didn't move that. Okay. WTT goes down by 1. There's no world tensions. How is that possible? Something must have happened, because a war of conquest does stuff. So I declared a war of conquest with France. I forgot to look this up. Take control of a land. A war of conquest automatically increases WTT, and it decreases the stability of the attacking power by the current level of the WTT. So what would have... Well, first of all, this has effects. When you launch a war of conquest, while it's revealed, decrease your stability loss for declaring. Yeah, so I wouldn't have taken the stability loss, but I would have gotten that back anyway. The WTT went up to 1 with the declaration of war, and then it went back down. The war of unification doesn't increase the tensions, but that war of conquest did. Oh, boy. Right. It is time for everybody to get their last NG, unless they get that card which allows you to exchange them. I'm really confused by that card. The way it's worded, it sounds stupid. Like that if I got it any time before this last draw, I would get an extra one. That feels way too potent. Being able to swap it only on 2 turns? I don't know. Oh, I got me a hard choice. A couple of players have gone. didn't have really tough choices. Their best cards were out there. For the French, European keys, I got a ton of them. That probably will get me 3 victory points. But peace in our time will also get me 3 victory points if the Great War doesn't happen. Which is more likely to get fucked up? Well, I'm in a lot of trouble if I lose my keys. This goes away too. So I am not going to bet. I'm going to guess the France resurgent is about colonialism and whatnot. I'm going to guess that there's nastiness that could come up that could push us into a great war, but I don't think it can. This is just, and I don't know how you end up with tensions going up that much. They go down 1 each turn. A random event can put them up 1 a turn. Player actions don't seem all that bloody, but I'm assuming things heat up real fast, potentially, in this last turn. I don't know why, or last 2 turns. These cards, they're made of something weird. I mean, there's no question. But I just spent a whole... now I did it one-handed and proved myself wrong. But I just spent a whole bunch of time trying to slip cards under that one, trying to pick it up with my fingernails. It's almost like they bind to whatever they're on somehow and just make it really, really hard. Get those final goals the players picked up. Yeah, good luck. Peace in our time for the Germans. The Brits took a look to London, which is lots of diplomacy. Don't know if they're going to get it, but it was the best they could see. We talked a little bit about the French already. The Austrians took a piece in our time. The Russians took a piece in our time. I tend to think the French should have too. They took a precarious position. Their 3 cards were all bad for them. That was the best. It's worth 3 points if I can be in a committed alliance with another player. Well, it looks like I'm on my way there, so okay. Really not happy with Turkey's hand overall. Flashpoints, I don't think I'm... Well, maybe I am in the lead on flashpoints now. And the Death Grip, I'm not doing too badly for it. I haven't lost all that much. Turkey is definitely the sick man of Europe, so they're actually doing pretty well, considering. But we do have a couple more turns to go. Austria had the option of the no Italian formation or a weak Italy. It was this Italy contained card, but I'm like, yeah, I can't guarantee what's going to happen with that, especially with these alliances here. Who the hell knows? But I'm pretty sure there's not going to be a great war. France is the only one who thought otherwise. Their thought was, look, it's going to be pretty hard to knock me down to not the most... What did I have? European keys, right? Yeah, not the most European keys. Because Russia has a number of keys that I don't think count in Europe. Like the Caucasus does... Well, there's no keys there. The Russian spaces... I'm sorry, I call it Russia. Siberia. It says Russia. The Siberian space is up there. That's 3 spaces that Russia does not have. So they're actually down at... Oh! And they got +2. Yeah, they've... I seem to have gained a space. I don't know where I gained it. This one. Okay. That's what I gained. So yeah, so there's 4 spaces in Siberia I don't have, 2 for the railroad that I don't have. So France is just far and away ahead in that. Now this was something Russia wanted as one of their goals. There's another thing. People are going to be playing for victory points, especially those who have the peace in our time cards in their hand, as opposed to playing for trying to position the alliance track. You know, they're going to be nest egging their points. I don't know how you get a great war. We shall see. We'll see. But right now, it looks like it just ain't going to happen at all. Like that world tension is not moving up at all. Once you get here, you can't declare war anymore. So, like, if it does start growing, it's going to be inhibited. The events just are not pushing it at a rate. Maybe I'm getting lucky or unlucky or something. I don't know. I don't know how to put it. You know? But good thing, because I've forgotten the Great War rules. All right, we're going to send this one. I noticed there's at least one nasty in here, the Impulsive Ruler card. Now this is, I thought this was kicking around all along. But apparently it's only on this turn. Hey, it's Willie. It has to be played as a response card if the WTT increases. If it is, it increases the WTT by another one. And you don't get any CPs, but you do get a card. But if you have less than or equal to 3 cards in your hand, you can play it for CPs. Now I'm assuming it's 2. Kind of can see that 2 if I shift this. It's almost there. And if played for CPs, the event doesn't trigger. So a heavily industrialized country is more likely to get it. That's at least one thing, but that's one card in a huge fucking deck. Unless this whole thing is full of like WTT advances. This decreases the WTT if played. There's a revolution here. I don't know what that does. This fucks around with alliances if it comes up. This is powerful. Black Hand is just a WTT increase, but I don't know if there's that many more. This one decreases it. Balkan Wars is going to increase it and cause problems, which maybe cause more. But it doesn't really feel like this last set of cards is adding too much to the number of cards that increase the WTT. But that one per turn decrease, I don't know. So far it's caught up. You know, it's kept me, well, it's kept up with whatever I've gotten from cards. So it's not like people have had to work to decrease the WTT. Like, people haven't been giving things up for it, as far as I know. Now a lot of them might, because they just took the Peace in Our Time card.